It's the High School Sports Today podcast with Coach Rick Cleveland.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to show number 3 of High School Sports Today. You know, every week we have something going on that really either makes our heart just kind of stop beating for a minute. And then sometimes we get really good news. So we got some sad news tonight to share. Our hearts, our sympathy goes out to the entire football team at Pleasant Grove High School. Talked to Coach Darryl LeBeau today, and unfortunately, one of their young football players, Lyndon Kynes, who's a junior on that football team, died early Saturday morning in a traffic accident after Pleasant Grove had defeated Fairfield 49-13 on Friday night. So all of us here at High School Sports Today and Prep Sports Report and our entire team send our sympathy out to the family of Lyndon Kynes and to the young people that are part of that football team and the school community, because you know it happens way too often that we lose a young person in a terrible accident, and it's one of the most difficult things that anybody can go through as a family, and it's difficult for a high school football coach. And Darryl was Coach LeBeau was feeling that pain today, and I just I hurt for Coach and the entire community there at Pleasant Grove. So I hope if you are a praying person that you are with us on that, and you will remember the Pleasant Grove football family and the family of young Lyndon Kynes. I want to thank our sponsors. You know, we don't do this for anytime you do something, you take on something that's live, and you got to have a group of sponsors that are just fabulous. And Brian Dowd and the group of people there at Thompson Tractor, we appreciate everything that they do. This being the Thompson Tractor High School Sports Today, they're our brand sponsor, and we certainly appreciate everything that they do for high school sports. Then Will Too. We have a great group of folks here in Mobile that just do an unbelievable job for us here. Wes Williams and his son Wes there at Will Too do a fabulous job for us, and we certainly appreciate them. Green and Phillips, attorneys at law. Craver Seafood. You won't find any finer seafood right here in Daphne, Alabama than Craver Seafood. We appreciate everything that family does for us here at High School Sports Today. And our friends at Premier Collision, Chris Garris and Kim and those folks there just do a wonderful job. And today's been a day full of rain, and they have been ultra busy. I stopped by there a little earlier today, and Chris and Kim and Tyler and all the folks there really just, I'm telling you, they are getting after it. They had one collision right after another that they were bringing in. We certainly appreciate everything that they do for us here at High School Sports Today. And then Eastern Shore Toyota and Hyundai, they've been with us for over 25 years, and we certainly appreciate everything that Sean Esfahani and his team does there at Eastern Shore Toyota and Hyundai. You know, we had a lot of good things that happened last week. I don't know if anybody, you folks that follow recruiting, know that Alvin Henderson, young man from Elba, Alabama, who has finally committed to Auburn, which is a good thing for all of us Auburn fans, but also he's still on the block there. I mean, nothing's for sure until they're settled and signed. But Alvin Henderson had some kind of job or game last week. He broke or set a new AHSAA single game record in an 80-78 loss. He scored 10 touchdowns. 10 touchdowns. And that's just unbelievable to me. Of course, it was 4 overtimes, and high school overtime, you put it on the 10, and each team just keeps scoring. So he had ample opportunity to break that. But Elba lost that game, and I'll tell you this about that. Anytime you score 10 touchdowns, it's kind of like after the 5th or 6th when your opponent knows who's going to have the football. So congratulations to Alvin Henderson, but in losing the football game, that's what you really play it for, and I know that it broke their hearts down there. And but congratulations to Alvin for having that record, setting that record for a single game record for the most points scored. Up in the Huntsville area, James Clements and Bob Jones. Now, those two share the Madison City School System Stadium, and the Madison Bowl is a big deal. It's a big deal up there, and James Clements won this game 34-31, and they blocked a field goal late in the game to preserve that win. Another big game across the state last week, of course, was played at Duck Sanford Stadium right there in Auburn, and Keith Etheridge's Auburn Tigers defeated Brian Moore's Opelika Bulldogs 28-21. Now, a lot of people are saying Auburn may have the best team that they've had in a long time. Now, Keith Etheridge wouldn't step out on that limb last week when he and I talked, but he said it's a mighty good football team. I tell you, most people are telling us now that the best football team in Alabama may be Central of Phoenix City. Patrick Nix, of course, is a defending 7A state champion, and they are mighty good, and they're good every single year. I don't know of another program in the state of Alabama that has more athletes year in and year out than Central High School in Phoenix City. And you'd have to go a long way to go back a lot of years to see some really good teams that were equally as good as these Phoenix City teams have been here in the last few years. Of course, a lot of people want to say Mark Freeman's Thompson teams have been really, really good too. And you go back to the Hoover teams of Rush Propst and Josh Niblett. So we've had some really, really good high school football teams in 7A. And then you drop down into 6A and you see the Clay Chalkvilles and you see the Sarah Lands and those teams. So we've really had some really good teams in the last couple of years in that 6A league as well. And I wanted to kind of give an update on the Alabama High School Athletic Association Radio Network Coastal Alabama Player of the Week, which is presented by Green and Phillips here in Mobile. Young Sammy Dunn was the winner of that Coastal Alabama Player of the Week. And I'm going to tell you right now, you talking about a young man that's a heck of an athlete. He's not only a heck of a football player, he's a heck of a basketball player. Transferred over to Viger this year in one of those transfer portal deals, and he's really filled a real void that Viger had coming into the season. And so congratulations to Sammy Dunn for being the AHSAA Radio Network Player of the Week. And that is presented by our good friends at Green and Phillips. Sammy threw for 3 touchdowns. He ran for 2, and they defeated LaFleur 60-0. When you're 11 for 14 and throw for 286 yards, you've had a pretty good night. And I'm sure that everybody over there is mighty excited about having Sammy Dunn as their quarterback on what many consider to be one of the best 5A teams in the state. They get a little test this week as they play the winningest coach in the history of Alabama high school football in Terry Curtis's UMS Wright Bulldogs, and they will travel to Viger's new stadium to play in that new stadium. So that should be a good matchup for those guys as well. You know, I wonder what folks think, and you can always text us on our Facebook page and ask us questions and say what you want to say, but I'm not so sure that we hadn't been privileged to watch a couple of the best high school football games in the Birmingham area in the last 2 weeks. We had Hoover and Spain Park, and Tim Vakakis' Spain Park team was able to defeat Chip English's team last week. And then this past Friday night, we had Mountain Brook at Hueytown in a little rain. And I never cease to be amazed at Chris Yeager and his football team. And I don't know how many of you out there really follow offensive line play, but if you get a chance to watch Mountain Brook and the way they play the offensive line, the way those kids work together and gel, the way they zone block is something really, really special. And Chris Yeager is as fine a high school offensive line coach as you'll ever see. And I can promise you, if you get the opportunity to go out and watch them play, it's something that you certainly don't want to miss. And they work so well in unison. And Chris does such a amazing job with those players. And I don't know anybody else that I hadn't seen another offensive line that executes as well as they do together as one. You know, it's kind of like, I know a lot of the offensive line. Rick Trickett told me one time, we were talking about when Rick Trickett was the offensive line coach at West Virginia, and he was recruiting Pat White at Daphne, and he and I were talking, as we always did when he came in, and he said, you know, one of the problems is with kids today, if they play well, in high school he was talking about, because he said this changes in college because we manifest this. He said in high school, if an offensive lineman plays a really good game and he grades out well, he feels like he's done all he can do. But in college, it's a little bit different. And he said, you know, if you got 4 players playing good and 1 playing bad, it's 1 for all and all for 1. And so I think that kind of speaks to me about how the Mountain Brook offensive line plays. When one doesn't do well, you see the other offensive lineman over there patting them on the back and picking them up. And, you know, when you get into college, you better all 5 be clicking on one cylinder. That's for sure. And I think that's a goal of all of us that have coached the offensive line. I get a kick out of talking to my buddy, the co-host of Prep Sports Report, Mark Lassiter, when we talk about offensive line play and the movement of zone blocking. I don't know how many of you know what zone blocking is, but you know, you ought to go to your high school coach and get him to explain it to you, because it's really it's not new now, but it was new 10, 15 years ago, zone blocking schemes. You know, one of the worst things that can happen to a football player is when he puts his hand in the dirt and he doesn't know what to do. He's confused and doesn't know what to do, and that generally does not present a good situation. So when you zone block, you always you go one way or the other, and you're filling gaps and you're blocking whoever's there. And so you don't necessarily have one person to block. You have an area to block, a zone area to block, and it's much simpler, but it's not an easy system to be really good at. And I'm telling you, I saw as good a team as I've ever seen using that zone scheme when Chris Yeager's offensive line did a wonderful job with that scheme. That game came down to a last-second field goal, and as a matter of fact, Mountain Brook had a field goal blocked a little bit earlier, and this young man comes back and kicks a field goal to win the game. And boy, there was a lot of celebration. It was wet. It was just it played on a turf field, so we don't have the mud and the grind and all that we used to have. But we have certainly had a young man who stood up to the test of time on that turf field and kicked a field goal to win the game. I don't know about you people in the north, but down here in South Alabama, we're watching Hurricane Francine, and she's going to come ashore, we're thinking, somewhere on the Louisiana coast. It keeps moving to the east, so those of us in the Mobile, Biloxi area are certainly keeping an eye on that, and I hope that those of you who are listening if you are in that area, you'll take all the precautions that you need to take to batten down the hatches, as we call it, in this hurricane season. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our lineup tonight. We're going to talk to Coach Jere Hood. Jere Hood has had an outstanding career. His first head coaching job was at a brand new school at Oak Mountain. He was 28 and 26 at Oak Mountain, and I thought he did a great job there. And then he went to Clay Chalkville, where he just had a remarkable career there. He was, I think he won 44 games and lost 17. And just a great. No, that's wrong. He was 75 and 26 at Clay Chalkville, and now he's at Leeds, and he's 44 and 17, and just a tremendous football coach. We'll talk to him in our first break tonight. Then during our second break, we're going to talk to Coach Jere Adcock. Now, most of you folks up in the Huntsville, Decatur area know Jere Adcock well. He spent 27 years as a head coach there at Decatur High School, and I'm telling you, one of the finest men you'll ever be around, and a guy that really loves kids and does a great job, as both these guys do. Both Jerry's that we're going to talk to tonight they're people, and they do a wonderful job, not only coaching young people, but extending that show of passion about their game and then extending it to the young people that play it for them. And so we're excited to talk to Jere Adcock, who's now, after retiring, spent a year out just kind of doing what he wanted to do. Said he did a lot of fishing, and even for about 6 months did a lot of fishing, and then he went to work for Pepsi, and he was still calling on coaches and administrators and people that he really cared about. But he got a call from Whitesburg Christian up in Huntsville, and he went and interviewed for it, and 2 days later they called him and offered him the job. And so we'll talk a little bit about his journey to Whitesburg Christian, and what a great choice they made in bringing Jere Adcock in. And then in our final segment tonight, we're going to talk some high school volleyball. You know, we opened the first show this year with Ann Schilling, who I think is one of the best volleyball coaches in America. She's, I think they won 21 state championships, and now because of competitive balance, they were a 3A school when they started that run, and now they've worked their way all the way up to the 7A league against the McGill Tulans and the folks like that. And I'm sure Kate Wood, the multi-successful coach at McGill Tulane, is excited about having Ann Schilling and the Bayside Admiral girls volleyball team in there with them, because Kate loves competition, and Ann Schilling certainly is one that loves it as well. But we're going to talk to another really outstanding coach, Julie Gordon at Montgomery Academy, who has just done a fabulous job there at Montgomery Academy. She won the 20-team Mayor's Cup that was played at the Multiplex in Crampton Bowl there in Montgomery. They defeated Pelham to win the team championship. And we're going to talk to Julie, who's been there forever. I can tell you, we both finished college about the same time, and she took the job at Montgomery Academy and has been the volleyball coach for a long time. And I'll let Julie tell you how long that's been. But she's nothing but a winner. Nothing but a winner. So we look forward to talking to Julie and all the other, both the Jerrys, Jere Hood from Leeds, and also we're going to talk to Jere Adcock from Whitesburg Christian. Down here in Mobile, we had a great week of football last week, and we're looking forward to some of the games that we got this week. I know we've already talked about Viger and UMS Wright. That should be a heck of a football game. And, of course, when you look at some of the coaches that we've got here in Mobile, every game is a tough football game. But I know this, that Viger and UMS Wright will be one heck of a football game, and I would imagine that will go a long way as determining who is going to be the winner of that 5A region. Got some other big games too. Citronelle is 3-0 for the first time in a long time. And I can tell you right now that Citronelle has done just a tremendous job this year. They've already defeated Millry and Orange Beach and Faith Academy. And Coach Jason Rowell has done a wonderful job. They beat Faith Academy and Eric Speakman, I think, 40-8. And so they're going to play at Williamson, who many people think might be the most talented football team in the Mobile area. They are, I'm talking about just absolutely maybe one of the fastest, quickest teams around, and they've outscored its first three opponents 145-6. They shut out a good Alberta team 49-0 this past week. And I'm going to tell you, Antonio Coburn, the former Auburn player, has come back to his alma mater and done a wonderful job there as a head football coach. So that's going to be one of those games that we really look forward to, Citronelle at Williamson. And then who I think is probably, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be hard for me to pick against Jackson in the 4A in any game going all the way through Super 7 there in Birmingham. Jackson Aggies will come to Mobile for the second time this week, and they're going to play Baker. You folks in the Birmingham area are very familiar, especially those folks out at Hewitt-Trussville are familiar with Juan Johnson. Juan Johnson was the offensive coordinator there and has done a wonderful, wonderful job as Baker's head coach after he left Josh Floyd's staff there at Hewitt-Trussville. And so Jackson, who's 2-1, Jackson lost to Saraland in the opening game of the season, but played Saraland. I'm talking about down to the fourth quarter, with not a lot of time left. And I know, talking to Coach Jeff Kelly after that game, he said, "Coach, I don't know if anybody can beat Jackson." And we felt really good about winning that game for the opening game of the season. It's the first time I think that Jackson and Baker have played. They lost 35-27 to Saraland. Then they came back and defeated Demopolis 42-20 and Escambia County 43-13. I want to say something about Demopolis. In talking to Chris Yeager this past week and getting in preparation for our TV game there on Friday Night Rivals in Birmingham, Chris told me a little bit about when Mountain Brook went to Demopolis. Of course, Mountain Brook went to Demopolis and won that game, and I don't remember the score. But he said, Coach, the one thing that really touched our heart was we have a young lady that was had some shark bites and that graduated from Mountain Brook High School. Of course, everybody read about this young lady that had her leg taken off, amputated. And when Mountain Brook went to Demopolis, Coach Luke Tucker, Luke Tucker is the son of Walden Tucker, who is the high school Hall of Fame coach, Walden Tucker from Fayette County. And his son Luke is now the head football coach at Demopolis. When the Mountain Brook team got there, they made a presentation to them for a large sum of money that they had raised there in Demopolis to donate to the fund for the young lady from Mountain Brook who had such a tragic injury but she's now doing great from everything that Chris Yeager has told us. But I thought that was mighty kind of that football team and the students there at Demopolis to raise money for that young lady. And that kind of shows you the kind of people that we have in our game, because Luke Tucker certainly is one of those children of one of our greatest coaches in state history, and Luke's doing a fine job everywhere he's been. So I wanted to mention that because that was something that Chris Yeager was really wanted me to really talk about that during our TV game. Jackson's got a heck of a quarterback, folks. Landon Duckworth, who is going to be one of the most highly recruited athletes ever out of Jackson, Alabama. And, I mean, he's not only an SEC player, he's a Big Ten player. He can play anywhere he wants to play. He's a great high school quarterback, and you'll look forward to seeing him play this week against Baker. Baker's 3-0 under Juan Johnson. Of course, they beat Theodore in the opening game of the season. They've shut out their last two opponents. They beat Alma Bryant 25-0 and Davidson 21-0. And they've got a sophomore quarterback named Tate Graham, who is a big old good-looking young man that I think plays first base on the baseball team. He's completing about 62% of his passes, and he has not thrown an interception yet. So that's going to be a great game here in the Mobile area as well. Then Spanish Fort, Chase Smith's Spanish Fort Spartans traveled to Saraland. And I think everybody has talked about this game all year long because Spanish Fort coming into this game is 3-0. Saraland's 3-0. They go to that beautiful facility there at Saraland High School. Last year, Saraland defeated Spanish Fort, I think, 49-7. Spanish Fort is not ranked in 6A. Saraland is number 1. Spanish Fort leads this series 8-5, but Saraland has won the last 3 games. And last year's 42-point margin was the largest in the history of the series. So Spanish Fort defeated Fairhope 42-6. They defeated Baldwin County 35-6. And in overtime last week, they defeated Theodore 24-21. So that they're a really good football team. And I don't know how many of you are Alabama or Auburn football fans, but, Saraland lost probably one of the best players to ever play high school football in the state of Alabama in Ryan Williams. Ryan graduated early, and if you watched Alabama play this week, you heard the announcers talking about that 17-year-old young man. Well, that is Ryan Williams from Saraland. And what a really good football player Ryan Williams was. He was a Mr. Football in Alabama both his sophomore and junior years, and chose to graduate early and go onto the campus at the University of Alabama to play for Coach Kalen DeBoer. And he's already making a name for himself on the college level. His first catch he made was for a touchdown. Maybe the first 2 catches he made were for touchdowns. And he was a heck of a player. But Jeff Kelly has done a great job of developing players. And they have, I think they beat Blunt and Gulf Shores after they beat Jackson. So that's going to be one heck of a football game, and we really look forward to that. So now that kind of brings you up to date on where we are and what's going on down here in South Alabama. We're going to kind of go around the state, going to go to the Birmingham area and talk to Jerry Hood from Leeds. Then we're going to go up around the Huntsville area and talk to Jere Adcock from Whitesburg Christian School, and then we'll go to Montgomery and talk to Julie Gordon at Montgomery Academy and talk some volleyball. You're listening to and watching High School Sports Today, the Thompson Tractor High School Sports Today, presented by our good friends at the United States Sports Academy.
School Sports Today podcast with Coach Rick Cleveland.
Hey, welcome back to the Thompson Tractor Prep Sports, Thompson Tractor High School Sports Today, presented by our good friends at the United States Sports Academy. It's always good to catch up with guys that have been successful in just about everything that they've done. And tonight we're going to talk to Jere Hood, who's a head football coach at Leeds High School. And Jere, welcome to High School Sports Today. And you're off to a pretty doggone good start here. You're 3-0, and it looks like that things are kind of coming together the way you hoped they'd come together after 3 weeks, right?
Well, thank you for having me, Rick. Appreciate it. Yeah, the kids have exceeded expectations, in my opinion. This was a year we got 8 new starters on defense, and those guys have held up well. And offensively, we played pretty well. And we've got this great team chemistry. That's the thing that blows me away. This is one of the fun groups that you coach, win or lose. They're great kids that have a great attitude and care about each other.
Well, and when you get kids that care about each other and they're playing for each other instead of playing for themselves, isn't it a lot more fun that way? I mean, it's just
it's a lot more fun. I mean, we've had good success at Leeds, good seasons, but sometimes you have a lot of wins and you're dealing with stuff every week, and it's tiring. And this bunch has just refreshed me, and man, I love coaching them. They're just tough kids, and they do exactly what we ask them to do. And our coaches just do a tremendous job of putting them in the right position to take advantage of whatever we're seeing. And so far, it's worked out through 3 games.
I'm talking to Jere Hood, who's the head football coach at Leeds High School. And Coach, I want to go all the way back to your first head coaching job. And Oak Mountain was I guess it was just about a brand new school when you took that job, right?
So it was 5 years old. We all went over here with Coach Tony Pugh.
Right.
I was a defensive coordinator for 5 years, and then when Tony moved on, I became the head coach. So it was still pretty young. What
did you learn from the time that you left Oak Mountain High School as a head coach? What made you a better coach after taking your first head coaching job?
I've got my ex-defensive coordinator is now the head coach of Chilton County, and I was telling him the other day, this is going to be the hardest year of your career because you're learning how to be the head coach.
Yeah.
You've got to pull together the school administration, the faculty, and the student body, and you got to point all your kids in the right direction. And a lot of times you don't have as many coaches as you need. The schedule's not exactly what you need. So you learn all of those administrative stuff that you didn't know a head coach did. You thought you worked hard as a defensive coordinator. Now I realize that was the best job I ever had. And but anyway, I learned quite a bit about it. Us being so new, we were still building facilities. So Tony built a lot while he was there, and then the time we were there, we built a whole new wrestling room, weight room, locker room, redid the soccer field, and practice fields. And I don't know now, Rick, to be honest with you, how we accomplished all that from a time standpoint. And so I've learned, the older I've gotten, I've learned to that things are not going to happen in 1 week. It's a long game, and you work to get a little better every year. And you look up, like at Leeds, I didn't know how long we'd be at Leeds. They gave me this opportunity, and I'm in my 6th year already. So time really flies, and you learn. I learned from my first job this. Let's get something better facility-wise this year. Let's get something better on the football field. And let's try to hire more quality coaches, and the rest will take care of itself.
You mentioned Tony Pugh, and all of us know Tony was a heck of an offensive line guy. I told Terry a long time ago, you should have hired Tony Pugh instead of bringing me in when Phil left. They were such good buddies, and that may be why he didn't. I mean, they're such good friends. But now his son Ryan is a heck of a football coach somewhere I saw. So do you keep up with Tony? You still keep up with Tony?
Yeah, I see Tony about 2 or 3 times a year at various things. I see him at the Alabama Football Coach Association every year in January. And then I'll see him around town a couple times a year, and he's doing really good, staying fit, enjoying his job with the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame, Birmingham Athletic Partnership. He's just doing really great. And I tell you, I appreciate Tony. He gave me great opportunities, taught me a lot, and he left quite a legacy in this coaching world.
And so now Ryan, I guess Ryan, after being at Auburn, is he's an offensive line coach somewhere, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I think the last I heard, the last I heard, he was somewhere in Texas at a college and coaching over there. And he's a quality football coach. Did a great job at Troy when he was there. Yeah. And that kind of life in the college world, he's gonna move around a lot. So I'm not really sure if he's still. I can't even remember what school he was at. But
I think it's Texas. I see University of Texas at San Antonio, if I'm not mistaken. I think I saw that, but you're right. He is somewhere out there. So let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about this Leeds high school team now. I think you defeated Springville 42-14, if my memory's correct. But and you were on the road, and so now you got to travel over to Lincoln. And my little buddy from Sylacauga that was a head coach at Lincoln for so long, Alan Brooks, boy, he used to say, Rick, these kids here will fight and scratch and claw to the very end. So I don't think they've changed a whole lot.
Well, when I first came to Leeds, Lincoln was kind of the gold standard in our region. We were all 4A at the time, and we've all moved up to 5A. And they have, every year when we see them walk out of the locker room, they kind of scare me to death. They look so good. They got long, lean athletes, and we'll go over there and try to put a good game together and keep this thing going. But Matt Zedeker does a great job over there, in my opinion, and one of my good friends in coaching.
Yep.
It's a unique place. He's lost a few kids here and there to different schools, but he's held the program together, and it's a fine place.
So my friend Tim Vakakis says it right, player acquisition. That's what's happening now. Kids leave.
There's a lot of player acquisitions going on.
Yep.
Around the state. But, there's a beauty in being at a place like Leeds. Over 90% of our kids played Little League football in Leeds, Alabama. And that's probably going to become less and less common. But for now, I'm enjoying the heck out of that pride.
Well, I would imagine if Jerry Hood has anything to do with it, those kids are going to stay in Leeds. I can just about imagine that.
Yeah, we've been fortunate. I got me a goon squad that'll go out if somebody starts talking to them, and make an impression on some folks, make them a deal they can't refuse.
I heard that. Matt, I think Matt is another Sylacauga boy. Alan Brooks.
He is.
Yeah, that's where Matt was.
Yeah, he is. He was over here with Matt. He was Matt Griffin's defensive coordinator.
Yep.
For many years, and then Matt ended up, when he retired, went over there with him for 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And now Matt's over here by us at this little Christian school in Pell City, doing a great job. They're off to a good start as well.
Well, I'm glad he got back in coaching. He did a great job at Sylacauga. He did a great job there. Yeah,
they've struggled to find the right fit.
Yep.
I hope they found the right person now. I think he's a good coach, but that was a regretful move for Sylacauga to get rid of a guy like Matt Griffin.
Ain't no doubt about that. He kept Blackman straight, too. That's the thing I loved about him. He kept Jones.
Absolutely. And that's not easy to do.
That's not easy. I'm telling you. Talk a little bit about some of these kids you got, because I know that you got some kids that work awfully hard, and I know it's got to be, like you said, it's a joy to coach these youngins.
Well, they are. On the offensive side of the ball, they got a lot of returning players. Our quarterback, Connor Nelson, who played receiver his 10th grade year, and then our quarterback last year, and this year is just having an unbelievable season. He's a Sanford commit and plays a little safety as well in some certain packages for us. just a tremendous athlete and has grown into being a fine leader. We got a kid named Taylor Gator, who's just a sophomore at wide receiver. We kind of move him all over the field. He's had a good start along with Z.J. Dale, our running back. And then up front, we got a kid, Gavin Boland, that's a Troy commit, and Wilson Beasley and Miles Boland are 3 seniors on the offensive line. And that group, along with Jax Gardner and Colin, have done just a super job of blocking for us. But we've got some experience on offense, allows us to do a lot of things, make people do a little mental gymnastics before plays, things like that.
That's
and
good.
Defensively, we had to replace 4 college defensive linemen, so that was going to be a tall task. But when you got a great coach like Curtis Coleman handling defensive line, you're going to be in good hands. And Carlos Placencia stepped in there and led that group, along with Jackie Bishop and James Langford. They're doing a great job. Miles Jones is a senior linebacker for us. He, Gavin Howard, and Reggie Franklin hold down those spots. And in the secondary, as of this moment, we've only got one returner, Reese Bittner, my other safety that was going to return, broke his toe, so we're waiting on him to get back. But he's done a great job back there, along with senior Dorian Hunter and 2 sophomores, Sam Minifield and Billy Burt. So we got a good mix of age, and we hope them 10th graders keep playing a little older than they really are.
You know, I didn't know Curtis Coleman was with you. Now, you talking about a good football coach, and he's coaching those defensive front. Boy, you got to tell me who the rest of your coaches is, because you got a Curtis Coleman on your staff. That's a coup. That is a coup for you, Jerry.
I've got a staff. You know, Curtis was with me at Clay Chalk for many years, and came with me to Leeds when we went to Leeds. Been there now 6 years, so I guess. Wow. All told, he was my defensive coordinator when I was in high school. So I think all told, we've been in each other's lives in some way for 35, 40 years now.
Well, that's a blessing. That is a blessing.
And then on offense, my offensive coordinator, Jeremiah Millington, who's also our head basketball coach.
Right.
This guy is a rising star in the coaching profession. He does a great job with our offense, along with Obed Ellis doing the offensive line, Jackson Williamson doing the running backs, and Jesse Turner, who is Jerry Partridge's grandson, is coaching our wide receivers. And then Jake Wingo coordinates our defense, along with 2 new coaches I have, John Thorell, who's a co-defensive coordinator that was the head coach at Jemison the last couple of years, and Austin Manziel, whose dad was a longtime coach at Hueytown. He's doing a great job for us. All those guys do a good job. We got added Jordan Welch, who was the offense coordinator at Cordova last year. We got him working alongside Curtis on the defensive line. So we got some quality coaches, and we're very fortunate to have them.
You know, Jay, that's something too, that those guys love working with you, and that's because I do a little bit of homework on this. It's because you let them coach, and that's the beauty of being a head coach that surrounds himself with quality coaches and just lets them coach. And then when you get in there and you get together and you start talking, and if somebody disagrees, they disagree when they're in there, but when they walk out, everybody's on the same page. That's what it's all about.
Well, with technology now, those guys, they're currently breaking down film from practice today. They'll note that up, and then about 8:30 to 9 o'clock, I'll go in and review it and look at their notes. So we always are speaking the same language to the kids, and if there's an issue, we can handle it, first thing in the morning. And when we see the kids, we have a good plan. And that's one of the exciting things about every week. Every week is like a book unto itself.
Yeah.
You start out on Monday and you look a little rusty on what the other team might do. And Tuesday, you still probably have a few mistakes. Hopefully by Wednesday, you've eliminated most of those. And then you're kind of ready for the for the game by then, and kind of walk through and jog around a little bit on Thursday and go play.
Well, I remember when we used to have to, on Friday night, have to drive. I was in Talladega with Glenn Woodruff, and I'd have to drive to Anniston every night to pick that film up, every Friday to pick that film up. And I'd sit in that TV or radio station or TV station, whichever it was, and I'd sit there for about 2 hours while they were winding the film and getting it done. And now you guys get it, 30 minutes after the game's over, right?
Yeah, things have really changed, and I got to be the end part of that. I remember the reel-to-reels when I was in high school. We'd have to go downtown and wait on it. We'd get the reels, and we'd start looking at it. Then it got to DVD and then the CDs, and that was still a pain. Nowadays, like we'll shoot practice. We'll shoot a drone shot, 2 angles of a drone shot every day. And then at the game, we'll shoot 4 different angles. And when we get back to the school, about 45 minutes later, all that's matched up. All the guys get their stuff done, and we go. Wow. Go home when we get done with that. So it's definitely changed. It's wonderful. I'll tell you that.
Well, if you got some young guys on that staff too that are into this technology, boy, they can take you a long way. They sure can.
Well, I'll tell you, if you don't, you better get you some.
Jamie Riggs was ahead of all of us in that because his son Michael was. He was way ahead of all of us. And
Michael spent some time at Leeds, and Jesse Turner, who does our wide receivers, learned a lot from him over those few years. And Jesse's as good as they come with technology and video, and handles our social media, and actually teaches that class in our school system now. It's just been the time it's getting up with the times. We finally got up with the times in football and sports where we can have instant feedback for the kids. The kids, we'll mark up the film. The kids will review it themselves tonight. We'll review it a little bit with them tomorrow to point out a few things.
Right.
And then we move on to the next day. It's just part of their world now.
That's amazing. It's amazing how far we've come. Are you turf or grass at Leeds?
Turf. And for the first time in my career, every game we play is on turf, isn't it?
Yeah.
For all of us that used to have to line the field, cut, fertilize, and everything else, that's a big deal.
Wow, boy! And now they've got machines now that'll line the field, even on grass now that line the field and do all of that. That's just crazy. That's crazy. We used to have to pull those strings and.
Those were the good old days, though.
They were
fun times.
They were. Talk a little bit about we're talking to Jere Hood, and I'm going to tell you, folks, this is one of our great guys in high school coaching because he's done it everywhere he's been. Kids love him, and communities love him, and it's just a joy to have him on with us tonight. But talk about 5A Region 6 and the strength of it and where you think you fit in.
Well, it is one of the toughest 5A regions, without a doubt. Jacksonville coming in and Center Point coming into this region has just made us that much stronger. Top to bottom, I think it's one of the best. I think there's a much improved St. Clair County team. Along with Lincoln, and then us and Moody are all get in there and fight for it. Springville had a good season last season. Off to a little bit of a rough start right now, but they've got a little bit of talent. They can sneak up on some people, and I think top to bottom, you better be ready to play each week.
I when I think about 5A. And I think about the schools that are annually in the hunt to win a blue map. I always think about Leeds. And, the reason I do that is having coached against the players that you guys have had there when Keith was there. And, I mean, just always – and you talk about big defensive linemen and big offensive linemen. It always seemed like to me that Leeds had more – just big, strong, powerful offensive and defensive linemen That was just a natural thing for you guys at Leeds.
Well, I guess that skipped a generation with us. We have a couple of big guys, but we're a little more of your, we do a lot of things to take advantage. We're strong now. Don't get me wrong. Our kids work hard in the weight room. They're strong kids. But this year, our left tackle is a gigantic human. Our left guard is a gigantic human. But the other three kids on the offensive line are your 6'1", 210s, 215 guys that have great quickness and those kind of things. So I'll take those kind of guys all the time. If they're willing to fight, use great technique, we'll do just fine.
Well, and the thing about it is you got some tradition, and kids want to play for the Green Wave, and it's just a fun place to be when you're coaching in a place where there is tradition, and you come in and you've continued that tradition, and at the same time you've brought some coaches in that really love working together. And that's the thing that I love and I miss about it. I really have. I've struggled with this retirement part. I miss that part about it. I miss the kid part about it. And I miss that fellowship with coaches. And Friday nights are Friday nights. But that time that you get to spend with your kids, it's tough. It's tough. I'm telling you, to be out of it.
Well, I know it is. And, I got a little taste of it for a couple of years, even though I volunteered coached and at Briarwood and Clay Chalkville again and back at Briarwood. And it is a transition. But, there's a place, the things you do that I don't know that a lot of people know that you do. You got our coaches group that you feed us Bible verses and do a little thing each morning. That means the world to guys like me, just the encouragement and keeping us focused on the thing that most important, the Lord. We appreciate that. And everybody finds their role.
That's right. You just got to find a place. And I didn't know I could play so much golf. I think my wife thinks I'm living at the golf course right now. So that kind of keeps me busy. But that Bible verse every morning is something that God laid on my heart to keep. I think God was looking after me to keep me busy, and I love doing that. So thank you for saying that.
Some of those guys in there are my real heroes as a coach and as a man. I see these guys responding to that, and then some of the funny things you'll talk about. You'll send an anger verse out, let us hold our tongue, and people accuse you of spying on practice, and we just have a good time with it, and I appreciate it, and thank you for doing that.
Well, that's a God thing, and we give all praise and glory to God for everything in our life, but that's something that we're really excited about and enjoy doing it. Where do we go? Where do we go with high school football, Jerry? What's the part that bothers you the most? And I'd tell you mine, and this player acquisition stuff bothers me to no end.
Yeah, and what bothers me about it is that there seems to be a new age of coaches that see nothing wrong with it. It's just the way to get ahead, and it's the way it's done, and there's no real thought about the way, when we used to do that, when it first started happening back in the 90s, I was in Oak Mountain, and you'd see several kids move over to a school, and you would hear about some guys in the community that the coach had sent out to scout different little leagues and make contact with parents and all these different things. Now we're up to where we have training facilities and guys go there from various places and they farm them out to different schools. And, all of that stuff and goes on. And, I take a little bit different approach. I want to coach kids that want to play at Leeds. Yeah. And if you don't want to be at Leeds, you need to go on.
Yeah.
And you need to go somewhere where you think you're going to be happy. This is America. You can move where you want to move or whatever the case may be nowadays, and all that. But if I had the tools to just say this is the way it's going to be. I believe I would try to propose and make this rule happen where if a kid is academically eligible and that school lets him in the school, he's academically on track, he beats all the qualifications that the AHSAA sets forward to be eligible, then he can attend any school. And the caveat is this: he cannot play at another school for 1 calendar year from the date he enters that school. And I think that would just, everybody would sort out where they are. We know who we're going to have for a year and just move on forward.
Well, I buy into that. I agree with you 100%, Jerry. And I hope down the line we get this fixed. I hope we get it fixed really quick. I really do. And
well, I think based on what I've heard from a state senator too that goes to my church, I think there's several people interested in NIL in Alabama.
Yep.
So I think in the next decade we'll have that, and then we'll have to go down that road. But
wow.
At the end of the day, it's not like it was. But there still is pride in communities, and most of your kids are going to be at the place they grew up because they love that place.
Yep.
Their parents love living in the community, and we'll hear about several this and that, and there may be some limited success that one may get from this, but the long-term programs are still built on the right things, on development of your youth programs, on development in the middle school, and that gives you a fighting chance every week. And then if the NIL comes, we'll have to start, maybe dealing with that in an appropriate way.
Wow.
And just try to make it good for everybody if that's even an option.
Well, I hope that never happens, but I'm afraid down the line it's going to happen. It just, everything trickles down, and it's starting to trickle down. It's all around us. It's in a lot of the states around us, and I don't see how we can keep it out of us. And we keep losing. We lose a basketball player not long ago for $250,000. It's just crazy to me. Jerry, thank you for taking time out tonight to spend with us. It's always good to catch it up, man.
You. Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate everything you do for high school sports, Rick.
You take care. Jerry Hood.
All right, brother.
Take care, buddy. Jerry Hood, the head football coach at Leeds High School, does it the right way. And I'm going to tell you right now, on high school sports today, we're only going to talk to those coaches that do it the right way. And that's my position. That's, we get that opportunity to have this show and to talk to the people that we believe do it the right way in the state of Alabama, and that's what we're going to kind of hang our hat on. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to another Jerry. It's our good friend Jere Adcock, the head football coach at Whitesburg Christian in Huntsville, longtime head coach at Decatur High School. When we return to the Thompson Tractor High School Sports Today.
Welcome back to the High School Sports Today podcast with Coach Rick Cleveland.
All right, welcome back to the Thompson Tractor High School Sports Today, presented by our good friends at the United States Sports Academy. And, well, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're looking for something in the Mobile area, Baldwin County area, you certainly want to check out the Sports Academy because they've got all kind of programs to fit your needs. And so I was privileged to know several people that have been through Sports Academy, and they do one heck of a job training you to become what you want to become in the sports world. So that's where we are. I got to welcome in a guy that we think the world of, and I think he's a friend to all coaches. I don't think that there's ever been a guy that has ever said anything but nothing but kind words about Jere Adcock. He's now the head football coach at Whitesburg Christian School in Huntsville, longtime coach at Decatur High School, and old boy grew up over it in the Roanoke area around, I think, Hanley High School is where he went to high school. I'll have to check on that. Jere, welcome to High School Sports Today, pal.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Well, we're glad to have you, pal, and I know that you went into this retirement, and I can kind of relate to you now. So, and talk to us a little bit about what your life was like there as you retired from Decatur High School, and now, doggone, I look up and you're coaching at Whitesburg Christian.
Well, I retired, and I knew I was going to do something else, but I didn't think it's going to be in coaching. I just said, I'm going to get out. I felt like it was time. I felt like that time for me, time for Decatur High School, that they needed somebody different to address the changes that are all occurring here. And I just felt, I was a little bit worn out and tired of it. And so took a few weeks and hunted and fished as much as I could for about 2 months, and then went to work with Pepsi, and I was calling on high schools and park and rec departments, and so I still stayed, in contact with a lot of school people, and that was good. And I was working there part-time, and that was fun. I was no stress. I mean, I was trying to do my job there and help Pepsi out as much as I could, but, I'd come home at night and didn't know what to do. Sit around the house, and I guess my wife kept looking at me like, well, aren't you going to do something to, be productive? I just, I didn't have film to watch. I didn't have an all-season to plan. I didn't know what to do, so I was kind of lost. Well, in about November, my son called me, and he said, hey, Dad, I got a phone call from a lady that he had worked with at West Morgan, said they want your cell number at Whitesburg Christian Academy. I said, well, give it to him. He said, I already have. and so I thought, well, let me have Whitesburg. So I looked it up, and I said, well, I don't know what they want. And I just looked at it a little bit and, did a little research, and I no big deal. So about 2 weeks later, the phone rings, and athletic director, and he and I discussed it, and I had known him through my wife. He and my wife had gone to high school together at Johnson up here in Huntsville.
Right.
And I actually met him before we ever moved up here, because we'd go to her class reunions, and two coaches get off the corner and talk the whole time, And so the process got started, and I just told Linda, I said, well, ask her, what do you think? She said, look, you're not done all yet. This is what you love. This is who you are. Go look into it. So I just, I just told the good Lord, I said, listen, y'all, you in charge of this. And if you want to shut the door, shut it. If you want to open it, because I don't want to have to make a decision. Well, the door got opened, and I walked right in, and so here I am today. And there's been a couple of times I've said, Lord, what were you doing for me on this deal? But I'm telling you, it's been fun. It's been interesting. It put me in a place that I had never been before, and really trying to get a program that's 4 years old coming off the ground a little bit better. And I've solicited a little help from an old friend of mine and yours, Coach Rivers, Steve Rivers, because when he went to North Carolina, he took over at school. They never had football at Wake, and he. So I said, "What'd you do?" And then it's funny. One day I'm fishing, and after I got started, and Philip calls me. Yeah. He said, "What are you doing?" And so we start comparing notes. Hey, have you gone through this? Have you done this? Is this happening? Is that happening? And we're just comparing notes about starting programs and some of the growing pains. So that's been good. Those guys have been super helpful to talk to, and I really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed my experience so far. We got a long way to go to be where we want to be, but I'm loving what I'm doing, and I'm truly enjoying the kids. And I don't care. All kids want discipline. They want a structured environment, and they want to know you love them, and they want to be worked.
Yeah.
And these kids, I don't know how good we'll be, but they've responded well to us.
How many players do you have, Jerry? We
got 37 on the varsity, 9 through 12, and then we bring up two eighth graders on Friday nights, because one of them is backup quarterback, and the other one is the backup kicker. And so we bring up two, and soon to bring up a third one. And so that's good.
Yeah.
But and then our middle school program's got 29 in it, and that's 7th and 8th graders. We got a big 9th grade class for us, and a big senior class for us. We got 12 in each class, and so that's good for us.
Wow. So talk a little bit about what you found when you got there, because I think it's kind of interesting where you play your games, and I tried to call an old college buddy of mine, college teammate of mine, Ollie Hayden, from up in Gurley. I was going to set him on fire for this new program. So,
well, we play at Madison County Elementary School, the old Gurley High School. Yeah. I mean, the old Madison County High School.
Yeah,
and it's the old elementary school, and it's out there in Gurley. And it's just really small little stadium. It's out there in the soybean field with trees around it, oak trees. It's a beautiful setting, beautiful. And it's a small stadium, and we packed the thing out. I mean, and they told me, they said, I'm telling you, these people, it doesn't matter. They're going to fill this place up, and they do. And so it's really a neat setting, because, at Hanley, we were 2A, 4A when we switched from, we were a smaller school, but we always had a good crowd. We had a really nice stadium. And then ever since then, every place I've been pretty good sized school, 5 and 6A, you know?
Yeah.
So this is kind of neat. It's a neat little venue, but it takes us about 30 minutes on the bus to go play a home game. And so I laughed. I said, well, I traveled farther to a home game than I did when I played Austin, Athens, Decatur. I said, it's almost like driving to Milton Frank as far as distance is to play a ball game. But they take care of us, and it's a good setting. And we do not have a weight facility on campus.
Right.
We've got a facility 3 miles off campus, and that kind of puts a damper on us during the season working out, because we really don't get to.
Yeah.
And so, there's just so many. We don't have. We dress in a modular building and I've got 10th, 11th, 12th graders on one end, and 7th, 8th, 9th on the other, and I'm in the middle. And there's no bathroom, and it's air conditioned, and there's a lot of sweaty jerseys and sweaty shoulders.
Gosh, I'm telling you.
So you can imagine. Somebody said, one little boy said he was in a PE class, and he asked me, he said, how do you stand this smell? I said, smells like a paycheck to me, brother. That's all I'm going to do. I said, I've been smelling it for a long time. It smells like a paycheck.
Oh, boy.
But you know, I mean, I really love the school, and the faculty is unbelievable in their support of you. I mean, the first home game, first game, I walk in on Monday, and they're already like, hey, it's game week. Like,
Okay.
all these ladies are just like, hey, coach, you better get them ready this week. This game week, we can fix something. I'm like, hey, I'm liking this. So it's a great situation there as far as school. Very strong spiritual core. So many things develop through spiritual thing. Like in the morning, we'll have our mentoring program. Every other week there's a chapel program or a mentoring program with our kids, and it's all scripturally and biblically based on everything that we do. There are just so many things that we always did here at Decatur, but there it's interwoven into the fabric of the school, and it's just really neat. And I'm teaching middle school PE, and boys and girls, and we do strength and conditioning, speed, and agility. That's what we do.
I love it. And
about 90% of our kids are athletes, male and female.
Yeah.
They play or do something.
Yeah.
And I've got some former students from Decatur and former players. I've got their kids in class.
Isn't
That's
that cool?
been a real joy.
That's got to be cool.
Yeah, it's cool,
yeah.
man. It really is.
That's
it really
is. Is it affiliated with any specific church?
Whitesburg Baptist, which is a big Baptist church here.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. And that's the fun part about it, because, you get that spiritual side. You don't have to worry about being able to share your faith or any of that. And
no,
that's a wonderful thing, Jerry. And so that's
I mean, you're right. And we did. I'm telling you, I always work with administration here at Decatur that embraced that, and they wanted us to do that, and it was kind of expected,
right,
that we did that, and they knew how we handled our football program, and they knew that things that we did and talked about and how much we prayed and did stuff,
right,
and and they were always super supportive, but there, it's just like, I don't have to give it a second thought.
Right. Yeah. That's, there's a lot of peace to that. Lots of peace to that. I had a chance, of course, I got to play for who I think's the finest, one of the finest men that I've ever been around in Tom Calvin. Of course, Coach Calvin. And Coach Calvin told me one time, he said, Rick, I tell you what, one thing I want you to do, I want you to always pray with your kids. And I've never forgot that. I never forgot Coach Calvin saying that. And he always did that with us at Sylacauga. And, I've loved that guy I still love him, and even though he's gone, but I know that he had a great time there in Decatur. And even though y'all were, did you coach against Coach Calvin?
I've never coached against him, but I got to see him a lot.
And such a sweet,
and it never failed. I Coach Calvin was that guy that I'm like, I want to be like him when I'm his age.
Yeah,
because he was a ball coach, and he cared about people, and he did it right.
Yep. And
he has some stories. He has stories.
He has some stories about Steve Rivers. Some good stories I'm talking about.
Steve used to tell us some of them. He said, I thought, okay, I'm gonna play tennis.
Yeah.
I know Coach Calvin's coaching track. I'm gonna play tennis. I can get away from Coach Calvin, get a break so he won't wear me out. And said, then I look up, and he's a tennis coach.
That's
right
right.
There with a bullhorn coaching tennis.
I'll tell you, Steve had a little bit of a temper, Coach. I mean, a little bit.
No, I've never seen that. I've never seen that blood vessel come down the middle of that head. I've never seen that.
I was just a little boy, and I'd go up there, and tennis court's right down the street from Steve and my house, and Steve just lived across the street from us. And I walked down there one day, and they were practicing tennis, and Steve got mad. Somebody called a shot out, and he's just mad. I mean, he just walked up to the net and told him, he said, that ball was in, and if you call another one out, we're going to have some words, and they ain't going to be verbal. And about 5 minutes later, that boy called a shot out again. Steve turned around.
It was on.
It was on. And Steve turned around and he threw his racket all the way on top of the Chamber of Commerce building. And Coach Calvin came running down blowing that whistle. And he said, whoa, wait just 1 minute. Steve Rivers, you go get that racket. Next thing we see, Steve's climbing a ladder at the Chamber of Commerce, getting that racket off the top of that building. He was mad at Coach Calvin then. He forgot about that boy calling that shot out.
I'm gonna have to ask him. I talked to him earlier this week. I'm gonna have to ask him. Last week I'm gonna talk to him about that one. I'm gonna ask, hey, this one you had told us about.
Yeah, he forgets a lot of them. But Coach Calvin was such a prince. I mean, he made a difference in all of our lives, and he loved some Steve Rivers. I can tell you, him and his mama, and just good people. Talk about the league you play in, Jerry. It's got to be a lot different. It's just a lot different.
It is, and it's ironically, we were 2A last year,
right?
And we were in there with 5 in Pisgah,
Ooh.
and so my AD said, "Hey, when we reclassify, I said we might be better off if we moved to 3A." So I'm watching the reclass. I mean, this is my first dose of private school ball with the factor, the multiplication factor we got to use and everything, the multiplier, and I didn't really know what to expect, and so we're not on 2A. And I said, well, there's Pisgah and all that bunch. Well, we're not in there. We might be 3A, and then the 3A thing pops up, and we're in there. 5, Geraldine, Sylvania, Collinsville. And I mean, you got to look, 5 won the 2A, and their preseason ranked number 1 at 3A. And then Geraldine and Sylvania were one play from beating Madison Academy to go to the finals.
That's great.
And so we got those 2 cats. I mean, that's 3 of them.
Yeah. And
then Collinsville, they've been really good, and we're playing them this week, and they're very athletic, and they can run up and be physical. They can spread you out and make you chase them, and either one of them is going to be a challenge. And then we got Brindley Mountain, we got Asbury, and Holly Pond. Those are our region games. Yeah. So, I mean, we got to travel a lot, as we go. And then non-region was Cleveland, Gaston, and Sandrock. And I mean, there's places I've heard about all my life, and I've never been there.
Right. Yeah.
So, that's new to me. And but the region's tough. I mean, and the thing is, very well coached.
Yeah.
These guys they do a great job of coaching the kids.
When you play 5, you need to go to 4 corners. You just need to start the ball. I'm telling you.
Golly, that might be what we just spread out, take a deep snap and keep passing it around.
Let me tell you, at Prattville one year we played Don Woods and them in Hartselle, and I promise you, Don's offensive lineman had 12 to 15 yard splits. I mean, we didn't even know what to do with it. Didn't have a clue, and some teams are just able to do stuff like that and just totally blow your mind when you walk on the field. And we go from 5 being in there tight and running, being so physical with everything they do. And I swear, somebody said, well,
And I said, look, I promise you, they're pulling 13 at times. I'm sitting there watching them on tape and thinking, wait a minute, they ain't but 11 on the team. But it looks like it's 13 I'm pulling in one ball carrier. And I mean, those guys, they know what they're doing, and they are a machine and do it well. And the thing about them, defensively, there's, I was showing our kids film today on Fife and Collinsville.
Right.
And I said, watch this guy right here, fellas. He's a corner, and watch how he plays this.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? He's a football player.
Yeah.
He understands how to play the game, and he does it exactly like you're supposed to do it. I mean, they're just, those guys they're so well schooled, and they know exactly what to do and how to do it.
But that's the fun part of going into a school like you've gone into at Whitesburg, and you're teaching when you're watching film. I mean, we all do that, but I mean, you really feel like you're teaching because these kids may not have ever seen stuff like this.
Well, I can't. A phone call from a little senior one day. There was one of our defensive players, and he said, Coach, I think I got this right here. And it was something we had done. He said, but I got a question right here. What does that squiggly line mean? And I said, well, son, that's when the guy got in motion. Oh, okay. I didn't know. I said, okay, you got it? Yes, sir. And I'm like, good gracious. I said, crap, I know that when I was 6. And, but, like yesterday, I'll say things and I'll think, they may not know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I mean, like yesterday I was saying, okay, what kind of read you getting right? High hat or low hat? I stopped and said, wait a minute. Y'all do understand what high hat, low hat means, right? Yes, we got that. Okay. And I've just learned to never take anything for granted.
Right.
And my terminology may be different. It's really kind of ironic because, like, Kevin Rose is our offensive coordinator. Kevin and I was at Bob Jones, and he and I coached against each other. And like he said one day, he said, we may be doing and thinking the same thing, but your terminology and my terminology is different. So he said, part of this whole transition is getting us used to your terminology.
Yeah. And,
that's what I've been saying for 40 years. And not everybody does it that way.
I would love to sit down and let Steve Rivers talk about his terminology. I would love that.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, I think back, and Bob Godsey and Alan Christian and I will get together. We'll talk about certain things Coach would say, and it being in there with everybody. And I mean, it was just, I tell you, the thing that I noticed the most, here's one thing that's always stuck with me, is he was going to coach the punt team.
Yeah.
My gosh, he was going to make sure that he was in the middle of the punt team. And that made a lasting impression on me. Now, I'm not doing it now because I'm coaching O-line while we're working on punt.
Right.
But I watch every bit of it. And today I said, Coach, y'all got him. I'm fixing to go here and watch these cats because we can't let that guy return four punts for touchdowns like he did last year.
Yeah.
And I got it. But he was adamant about how important the punt was.
Yeah.
And he made a lasting impression on me. And so from that day on, as a head coach, I was in the middle of it. Now, I might not have been coaching it, but I was watching everything that was being coached. And just little things like that.
I bet you he never did want that punter to punt it down the middle of the field.
He might not have. Oh, man.
Oh, boy. That was one of Coach Calvin's pet peeves. I had to run about 400 separators one day because I forgot to kick the ball to the coffin corner. So then he brought up Steve's name, and I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. If that's the way Steve does it, that's the way I'm going to do it. Jerry, thank you so much for taking time to spend with us tonight.
Hey, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And I want to say this, too, because I appreciate you taking the time and the effort, and you care about it. of what you do with us in the mornings when you send us the scripture and the prayer concerns. And there's guys all over this state that are getting that. And we appreciate it. I mean, I turn around, I send it to my wife and all my kids.
There you go.
And my grandkids. And so, you know, it means a lot to me. I look for it every day. And I just appreciate you doing that, because that is a ministry to us. And the one you sent yesterday, buddy, I needed it. I thought he must have been hearing me laugh the other day. So,
well,
I just really appreciate you doing that, because that means a lot.
Thanks a lot. It blesses my soul, I can tell you that, and I'm just thankful that the Lord chose me to send that out, because I didn't have any idea that's what he was going to have me do, but he sure laid it on my heart, and that's where we are, and we love doing it. But I tell you right now, every Saturday morning on Prep Sports Report, we call Whitesburg Christian School score out. I can tell you that. And we didn't do that before you were there. I can tell you that.
I hope we got some positives on through the season. You can say something about that. I really do.
Well, between Mark Lassiter and I, we make sure of that. I can promise you that, pal. We love you.
I appreciate that, buddy.
You take care. We'll
Hey.
check you down later on. I promise you that.
Do that. Appreciate you calling. Been enjoyed visit with you.
Take care, Coach. That's Jere Adcock.
I'll take care.
You
Thank
take care, pal. All righty. When we return, we'll talk to one of the best volleyball coaches in the southeastern part of the United States, Julie Gordon from Montgomery Academy.
It's the High School Sports Today podcast with Coach Rick Cleveland.
All right, welcome back to the Thompson Tractor High School Sports Today, presented by our good friends at the United States Sports Academy. And you know, us guys are really bad in one way about always talking about football. So I told my golfing buddies the other day, I said, guys, I'm going to tell you something. Tuesday night, I'm going to call one of the best volleyball coaches ever in this state. And I don't ever forget that Julie Gordon, you've been coaching, I think, as long as I've been out of college.
46 years.
Yep, that's right, because I just retired after 46 years, and I think have you been at Montgomery Academy the whole time?
The entire time, straight out of Auburn University.
Isn't that War Eagle? Isn't that something?
Absolutely.
Something? Man, I'm telling you.
Well, that doesn't happen very often anymore.
No, it doesn't, and especially with these young coaches, Julie. The grass seems to be always greener on the other side of the pasture. When they get there, it's brown.
Yes.
It's just, first of all, how'd you do today?
We won. It was an area match against Stanhope Elmore, and we won in 3. Played really well. Not as great as we played this past weekend in Mayor's Cup, but it was a win, and everyone on the team got in, which helps your program a lot when you can get everyone on the team some playing time. So it was a good night for our volleyball team.
Well, I called Julie this afternoon, and at some point, and I'm sitting there looking at the Mobile Press Register, and it says Montgomery Academy wins the Mayor's Cup. So I'm just thinking that they played here in Mobile. Well, no, they didn't. You played that at the Multiplex at Crampton Bowl, and you defeated Pelham in the championship. Tell me a little bit about the Multiplex, because I'm telling you, from what I hear from everybody, we remember Crampton Bowl when it was nothing in that end zone. Now it's something special, right?
Well, it is, and the mayor in the city realized that girls' sports is very important.
Yeah. Not
just in Alabama, but everywhere. And it's kind of the phrase, if you build it, they will come. And they transformed the multiplex into 6 sport courts, and city workers do a wonderful job. Murray Webb leads them, and they were very gracious for us to host that tournament. I had 20 varsity teams, 12 JV teams, and 8 middle school teams at another location. But 32 teams inside the multiplex over a 2-day period from 4 in the afternoon till about 9 o'clock at night on Friday, and then all day Saturday. It was a great event, and really the varsity teams love coming to that complex, the ones in the South, because that is where the HSAA South Super Region is.
Yeah. And
to be able to play there ahead of time and get used to sport court, the lighting, everything about the situation, it's just a leg up on other teams that don't come. So it was a great weekend, and my team played well this weekend, and we won.
Well, and I want to ask you about something about volleyball that I think I probably ask you this every time we talk, but what's the hardest part for you of coaching a high school volleyball team that is rich in tradition, and there's only a certain number of players that you can keep on the team? What is the hardest part for you? Well,
the hardest part and the most important part is creating your team culture. You can have great hitters, great players, whatever, but unless they're unselfish, willing to play together, they're great teammates, they cheer for each other, they pull for each other in the same position, you've got to have that. And you hear the phrase culture beats strategy all the time.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. You've got to have culture, but you've got to have strategy. You've got to have the players that can win, that can put the ball down, that pass, that set, all the necessary skills. But you need a combination of all of it. And culture is something that we work on every single day, at the beginning of practice, at the end of practice. I give them a quote for the day, and and how does that relate to us? What can we do to make our team better? At the end, we talk about the successes of practice, and that's where we win. You don't win on the court. You win on practice days, the hard practice days, and that's what I try to stress to the girls. It's like, I don't make my decisions on game day. I make my decisions on who's going out to represent our team by how you perform in practice. And we have good practices. They're very intense. And, I don't have to tell my girls, work hard, do this better. Who can stay late today? They ask me, Coach, can I stay a little bit later to serve a bucket of balls? Can I hit a bucket of balls this afternoon? Can I pass the extra ball? And they're asking me, and that's how teams develop, culture develop. When teams take control of themselves, and I am their leader, yes, but at a certain time and point, the team, pushes the team.
Right.
And I think we've got a great combination of all of that going on right now.
It's probably 10 years ago, Julie. I was in Auburn with some friends of ours, and we were tailgating, and there was a young lady, and she was about 5'11", and a beautiful child, and she started talking about her family. And her family that she was talking about was the volleyball team at Montgomery Academy. And I wish I had written that young lady's name down, because she just went on and on and on. And I just let it all soak in like a sponge, because she talked about how that chemistry, it was everybody was for everybody. And there was nobody that was somebody. It was everybody is everybody. And that all started with her coach. And one of my buddies said, "Who is your coach?" And when, she told us, and I just shook my head. I just said, I've known that all along. I just didn't know. I just didn't know how deep it was. I'm talking about, it was deep, Julie. It was deep, and it was special.
Yeah, that's special.
That's
special.
And I went home and I wrote that girl's name down, because I put it in my shirt pocket. And now, as I've retired now, I'm trying to clean out some of those boxes. And today, after I talked to you, I said, I'm gonna find that girl's name. Now I can't find it. That's the way it goes.
Well, we've got a rich tradition. In fact, last week I had a former player that came by. She's from the 2000s, and it's just so great to see her. She was a major player in those days, and for them to come back, that's so, it's so gratifying. It makes everything feel really special. And it's not just an athlete. All the coaches at Montgomery Academy are great. David Buffet, Tim Buffet at Trinity right now. I mean, we don't just care about them as athletes. We care about them as people. And that's what this world needs, especially right now. Yeah. That people caring for one another. And that's just being a good person. And I hope I instill that into my players.
Well, I can tell you, I've heard it firsthand on more than one occasions. And I think David Buffet is your best cheerleader. And I love that man like a brother. I do.
Yes.
I do.
Well, he is a great mentor and leader for our kids at our school.
He is that. I spoke with him, I guess, probably Saturday. And I try to call him periodically. And, it just resonates with me, every word he says. That's just the way he is. So when you talk about your staff there, you are blessed. You are richly blessed.
I've been through with some great guys, Spence McCracken, John Tatum, Joe Moody. I mean, they helped raise me, and it's been a blessing in my life.
Boy, those are some names that we all think about and care about, and I know they're special to you. Let's talk about these young ladies. I wrote some names down. Your senior setter, Addie Vinson, she had some kind of tournament, if I understand statistics, in volleyball.
She did. She had a great tournament. I believe almost 150 assists
Oof.
for the past. Now this is like 7 matches in the tournament, and then we played 2 matches on Thursday. So 9 matches in the course of 3 days.
Wow.
She is a phenomenal. She's playing a collegiate level right now. Now. She's got several offers, and she hadn't made up her mind yet, but she's got several full ride offers, and it's just a matter of her making up her mind right now. But she is, in my opinion, the best setter in the state of Alabama.
That says a lot, and that comes from a coach that knows probably most about every team and every player.
I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of good teams, and I'm telling you, and I wouldn't be the only coach in Alabama that says that. Anybody that sees her says that.
We're talking to Julie Gordon, the head volleyball coach at Montgomery Academy, and some other names. There was an Ellie McBride and sophomore Morgan Springer and Caroline McDaniel and Casey Armstead. Just coming out of the woodworks, it seems like. You just got players that you've developed. And that's the thing, is another thing that young lady says is the way our teams are developed. And, you know, in today's world of I guess you call it name, image, and likeness, but all these transfer portal kids, I hope you don't see that in volleyball like we do in football.
Not yet, and I hope it doesn't filter down.
I
hope it doesn't filter down. The 4 names you just mentioned, all 4 of those girls want to go play at the next level.
Wow.
And so they have an extra drive every day in practice. And the supporting cast that is around them, just Bennett Britt, a new JV player that came up to us this year, we needed to replace a middle hitter that graduated last year, is doing a phenomenal job. Emmy Sorrell, another defensive specialist, is doing a great job. Amelia Hughes plays on the right side, just doing a great job. It's just, you know, we're a small school.
Yeah.
We're playing 6A volleyball, but technically we are a 2A school.
Yeah.
And when you ask us to go against those teams, you know, of course we follow the rules by HSAA, but you don't know our heart.
Yeah.
Our heart is big in volleyball. And a close-knit school, well, they don't just play volleyball. They go to the football games together. They go to church together. They go on mission trips together. They go to dinner together during the week. They go to Bible study together. I mean, these kids spend their time together, and it's on and off the court that they're building relationships, building that team camaraderie on and off the court, and it matters.
Yeah.
It matters. And, you know, like I said, you don't win at games, you win in practice. And we've got 15 girls on our team, and every single one know their role, have a role, and contribute to our success. That's why we're 25-2 right now.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, those of us, and I spent 26 years in public school and the last 20 at UMS, and I'm not a fan of having both the multiplier and competitive balance. I'm just not. I think it's unfair. I mean, if you're going to do that, you need to give these city school systems need to have competitive balance too. It's something that bothered all of us at UMS. and it's
a challenge. It is a challenge, and right now it's the rule that we have to follow.
That's exactly right.
I wish there could be a cap on how many classifications you go up.
Oof.
Like, for instance, Bayside now.
Yeah.
Bayside is competing in 7A.
Yeah.
That's really hard when you look at the numbers game, right?
Yep.
The number of a 7A school female athlete population versus a true 2A school female population. I mean, that's tremendous.
Yeah. Tremendous
difference in numbers, but it doesn't matter. It's what it is right now, and this, we do the best we can do.
And you just play whoever's on the other side of the net, and that's just what you do. You play who's ever on the other side of the net. So
that's right.
Golly, Julie, it's always so wonderful to hear your voice and knowing what you have done over 46 years. Oh, one last question before I go. Why do we play the 15 in the final game? That bothers me.
You've already,
I know.
Well, if it's a 3 out of 5, you've already played 4 that have been to 25.
I know.
Why? If you prove your point.
So you like that? You like to play the 5th game to 15? Is that? I don't know what my point is. Ignorance is bliss here.
It doesn't matter. Every point is important.
Yeah.
And I stress that to my girls. It's like, I can't tell you how many state championships we came in second place, runner up, 13 to 15. Every point is important.
Yeah.
And, whether it's 25 or to 15, you got to play. I mean, there's a drill we do that they choose a card and they don't know what it is. Well, they might choose the number 1.
Yeah.
A play to 1. Well, you got to play to win.
Yeah.
And it just is one of those things. It's a rule, and you got to follow those rules. So you better be good at following rules. But we do practice that, and we practice playing to 15. A lot of our drills are to 15. So you got to train yourself to work at that. And every point, especially in a 15-point game, every point is more important.
Yep.
It's special.
Well, I hated it when we went to tiebreakers in tennis. I did. I play it out. Got to win by 2 games. No, whoever wins 7 points. That's always kind of stuck in my craw. But I'm like you. When our players talked about it, I said it doesn't matter. It's a rule, and we're going to play by it. We worked on that, so that's
right.
That's good. I love to know how you feel about that, and I know that you coach that. You coach to that point, so
you have to.
Yeah, yes. That's the way it is. So who's on deck? Who's coming up for you the rest of the week?
Well, we have 2 good matches this coming Thursday. We play Auburn High School. We've already played them once.
Yep.
And Pike Road, who's a 6A opponent. So 2 good, challenging matches for us. And actually, we have a weekend off, and this is the first weekend off we've had in 3 weekends. And I know the players are ready, and the coach is definitely ready. So looking forward to taking Friday off and having a weekend off and let them recharge physically and mentally.
That's awesome. Well, richly deserved. Julie Gordon, thank you so much for taking time to spend with us tonight. It's always a joy. And please give my buddy David Bethea a hug for me tomorrow.
I sure will. Love talking with you.
Take care.
Thank you.
God bless.
All righty.
All right.
Bye-bye.
That's Julie Gordon, and she's one of the I'm talking about. She's a champion. She's a champion in life, and she's a great volleyball coach. That does it for this week's edition of Thompson Tractor's High School Sports Today. Thanks to Jerry Hood from Leeds High School and Jere Adcock from Whitesburg Christian and Julie Gordon from the Montgomery Academy. And remember this, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, He is always with you. God bless you. See you here, same place, same time, next Tuesday night.